Hi, everyone, and welcome to week 11 of the NFL season. Good afternoon. My name is K Moore Sports, Ken Moore, here to talk to you about the Titans and the Ravens coming up on Sunday afternoon from Baltimore. The Titans and Ravens both come into this ball game at 6-3 on the season. A huge ball game for the Baltimore Ravens. Maybe not so big for the Tennessee Titans, and we'll explain as we dive deeper into this one. We're also going to look at the Titans' playoff possibilities. How big is this game coming up on Sunday? And then we also have some breaking news coming out of Nashville from Titans practice today. There are 6 or 7 Titans likely out on Sunday versus the Ravens, including Jadeveon Clowney and possibly 3 starters along that offensive line. So we'll look at this. We'll break this all down for you. Huge game coming up, as we mentioned, for both teams. It may not be as big for the Tennessee Titans as you think. The Titans coming to this ball game 10 days after the loss to the Colts, would put us in a tie for the division lead, but right now the Colts have the tiebreaker. The Titans, of course, play Indianapolis next week in Indy. That, my friends, is the most critical game the rest of this season. We'll take a look at the Titans' schedule. We'll take a look at the playoff probabilities and how all of that will break out. But before we get into that, let's look into this injury situation with the Titans and with the Baltimore Ravens coming up for this weekend. And ladies and gentlemen, it is not pretty for the Titans right now as they get ready to embark upon this ball game against the Colts this weekend. And we're going to take a look at the injury situation. One moment to get that pulled up here for you. And here we go. A number of Titans, as we mentioned, out for this ball game. Jadeveon Clowney, likely out. That means we're going to get a heavy dose of Derek Roberson, maybe a little Wyatt Ray, and a lot more of Harold Landry. Expect his snap count to be back up into the 95, 96, maybe even 99% range. Unfortunately, on Sunday, if he can get through that game. Defensive lineman Larry Murchison, the backup D lineman, he looks like he will be out for this ball game. Adam Humphries is still suffering from the concussion. Mikael Pruitt, the tight end, we saw him get injured last week with the knee. And then along that offensive line, wow. Roger Saffold, we saw him with the ankle last week going in and out of the ball game. He's likely out. Dennis Kelly, the right tackle, having some knee problems. He's likely out. What that means is we may get our first look at our #1 draft pick, Isaiah Wilson. Isaiah Wilson, of course, of the DUI incident. He was on the COVID list twice. He hasn't been really productive at all. We haven't seen him in a game situation. He may get the start at right tackle this week against the Baltimore Ravens. That will be a sight to see. And then also our center, Ben Jones, he is questionable with a knee injury as well. So things not looking good for the Titans along that offensive front. Things looking very shaky. And it's going to be a battle for this ball club coming up this week against the Ravens. But I think the Titans are going to approach this game as a semi-bye week. And the reason why I say that is because, and we'll look at the playoff possibilities in just a moment, the Titans have had 10 days off. And to still have this amount of injury concerns, specifically along that offensive line, is very, very worrisome. It's worrisome for the protection of Ryan Tannehill. It's worrisome for the protection of Derrick Henry as he looks to, maintain his running ways. You want to make sure that he stays healthy. And again, the most critical game on the schedule is next week versus the Indianapolis Colts, not this week against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, of course, there's other things that we have to look at going into this ball game. Everyone's been worried, yours truly included, about the special teams. Stephen Gostkowski on the punter situation with Trevor Daniel getting the nod again this week as the punter over Allen. Allen was cut earlier this week, then signed back to the practice squad on yesterday. So he is still on the team, but on the practice squad. But the team will go with Trevor Daniel once again. And I'll say this for the Tennessee Titans and for Coach Mike Vrabel. For the most part, over the first couple of years of Vrabel's tenure here with the Titans, he's made the right decision. He's at practice every day. Yes, it was quite the fiasco last Thursday night at home against the Colts that cost us that ball game. But I'm going to, in the words of the great Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to RELAX. I'm going to believe in Mike Vrabel. I'm going to believe in Trevor Daniel that if he has to punt, which with the status of the offensive line, he likely will have to punt multiple times on Sunday afternoon if the offense can't get on track. I'm going to trust that he's going to do a great job, that our punt protection unit will do a very good job. Because trust me, the Ravens are going to come after our punter, particularly if we're backed up inside our own 20, backed up inside our own 10-yard line. They're going to come after it. And it's going to be up to our punt protection unit to protect him, to give him time. And I'm going to trust that he's going to be able to deliver, have a great game, back up the Ravens inside the 10, inside the 20, put our defense in great position to succeed, and that we'll have a pretty good game from a special team standpoint and from a defensive standpoint. Obviously, we had a great game last year against Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. Of course, we don't have the same defense that we had last year. We don't have Dean Pease as our coordinator that we had last year. And we don't have the two best players that had the best games last year against the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. And that was Adoree Jackson, who we do not expect to see again this week. And of course, Jarrell Casey had a huge game against the Ravens last year in that playoff game. And of course, he is no longer on the roster. So the guys that are taking those spots, Jack Crawford is going to have to step up this week. Borders in the secondary, Malcolm Butler, Desmond King, all of those guys are going to have to step up this week against the Ravens if we hope to win this ball game. We're likely going to have to hold the Ravens to less than 21 points for us to come out on top because we don't know what we're going to have from the offense this week. If we are without 2 or 3 starting linemen, which I would not count on Roger Saffold, I would not count on Dennis Kelly being there this week. We're playing with a lot of backups. Then we're going to have to bring more backups up from the practice squad just to have depth along that offensive line. This could be a tough, low-scoring game. We don't know how the weather conditions are going to be in Baltimore this week. So I would not expect a 38-35 shootout. I would expect something along the lines of 19-17 or 23-21, a very low-scoring game by NFL standards this game coming up against the Ravens. Now, what we also want to look at today is the Titans' playoff possibilities. As I mentioned, this is not, contrary to popular belief, this is not a must-win game for the Titans on Sunday. And I will show you why. The Titans' main objective is to win the division, okay? And we have this nifty little tool that we found this week. As things currently stand, the Titans have a 58% chance of making the playoffs, okay? Hosting wild card, 36% at this point. To host a wild card game, obviously you're going to have to be a division champion. All right, so let's look at the Titans' schedule the rest of the way. This week, of course, they're playing the Ravens. Let's mark this as a loss against the Ravens and see how this changes our chances of making the playoffs. Drops it down to 43%. Doesn't look good, but watch this. Next week, we play the Colts. Let's click the box that we win against the Colts. That 43% goes all the way up to 76%. Because what happens in this scenario, no matter what the Colts do this week against the Green Bay Packers, no matter what we do this week against the Baltimore Ravens, if we lose and the Colts win, the Colts go up by one game in the division. They would go to 7-3. We would fall to 6-4. But if we come back and beat the Colts next week, we're both tied again at 7-4, and the Titans would retake over the tiebreaker. You see it here where it says host wildcard, 66%. We would hold the tiebreaker because the Colts would then have 2 division losses. And then as you matriculate through the rest of the schedule, okay, you have the Browns after that. Titans at home should win that game. At the Jaguars, Titans should win that game. Home for the Detroit Lions, Titans should win that game. Titans win those 4 games, they're at a 99% clip to get to the playoffs with only 2 games left against the Packers and the Texans. Let's say we go to Green Bay, we lose that game. That's a non-conference game. If that game doesn't mean anything, we could likely sit a Derrick Henry, or if there are more guys that need to sit out at that time to get ready for the playoffs, like last year against New Orleans, second to last game of the season. That game, in all reality, didn't mean anything. The Titans treated that game like a mini bye week. Lost that game to New Orleans, even though we had a good chance to win it, but we rested up for that season finale against the Texans. Same situation could rear itself this season. That last game against the Texans could be for the division championship because the Jaguars will take on the Colts that week. You assume Indy would win that game. So if you look at this scenario, this is irregardless of what any other team does. It doesn't matter what the Colts do. It doesn't matter what the Steelers and Chiefs do. This is irregardless of anyone else. The Titans can lose to the Ravens. They can lose to the Packers, win their other 5 games, particularly against the Colts. We 100% win the division because of the tiebreaker, and we host a wild card game. It's very unlikely we get to a situation where we can catch Pittsburgh or Kansas City and get a first-round bye. There's only one first-round bye this year, and it's going to go to either the Steelers or the Chiefs, whichever one finishes in first. So everyone else will be playing on wild card weekend, and that's the situation. I'm sorry, I accidentally hit us losing to the Browns, so that screwed everything up. But yeah, we would be at 100% if we win these games. Now, let's say we lose to the Ravens and the Colts. That's where things become a little problematic, okay? Because you lose the tiebreaker to the Ravens. The Colts would likely win the division. So now you're in a battle with teams like Cleveland, Las Vegas, and Miami for that last two playoff spots. So it's still likely we could make the playoffs. We'd still have an 89% chance at that point. Again, that's irregardless of what the other teams are doing. Other teams are winning. That's going to bring that percentage down. But likely we would be a wild card team, not at home, if we lose these next two games to the Ravens and Colts. But the point of this exercise is that the Ravens game is not that critical on Sunday. And with the injury list that we just saw, Mike Vrabel, John Robinson, they're going to look at the big picture. They're not going to put all their marbles into this game against Baltimore. All their marbles are going to be over the final 6 weeks of the season. We would need to go 5-1 to absolutely 100% guarantee ourselves the championship of the AFC South. So that's how things look as far as the Titans playoff possibilities go. So guys, do not panic if we lose this game on Sunday. If we win it, it's just it makes it easier going down the stretch. Maybe we could lose a game to Cleveland that we wouldn't necessarily have to win at that point if we could somehow pull out this game on Sunday. But it's going to be very difficult considering the injury situations that we have. So we'll be back on Monday for the day after. We'll look at the good, the bad, the concerning about what happened on Sunday against the Ravens. Hopefully, we can get a lot of these guys healthy. I'll be rooting for the Titans to win, but I will not panic if they lose. The main thing is to get Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill out of this game alive and get all these guys healthy and ready for the Indianapolis Colts in Week 12. Thank you for joining me today. On your way out, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, the comment button. I enjoy you guys. You guys have been great so far. I enjoy your energy. I enjoy your feedback that you've been giving. We're trying to make the channel bigger and better. We're getting a little bit different every week. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we'll see you guys on Monday after the Titans and Ravens. Tighten up.